likely the first, certainly the most often repeated nugget of wisdom offered by friends and family over the years, ever since I first announced my intention to study archaeology and human history at university, has been to take a moment, give a nod of the head, and sagely reflect that those who do not learn from history are bound to repeat its mistakes. I always found this sentiment to be sentimental. I thought it was twee. I thought it was naff. I even took it to task in my written statement on the UCAS form applying to study archaeology at university. I thought it was too often repeated, and in that sense, ironically, completely ignored. It's almost invisible to a certain extent, a little bit like Cassandra, destined to have insight, but also destined to be ignored. A platitude, something nice to say, but something which is far too often dismissed. Today, I find myself thinking about JRR Tolkien, the author behind The Lord of the Rings, of course, but also a man who lived through the First World War. He was involved in I think, the final ever cavalry charge during that conflict. He lived through the Second World War, saw the way that it ravaged his family and his friends and the world at large. And he, along with other writers and academics, the Inklings, were concerned with this big question following those conflicts. Why? How do people who are otherwise good do bad things? How is it that evil seeps its way into the world? Why do the masses follow a corrupt few? How are they convinced by action and by word to do things that are against their own interests? And rather than just offering up history for us to learn from, he also offered up fiction in the form of the Legendarium of Middle-earth. And one of the books that were never finished and scarcely begun was The New Shadow. It was a sequel to The Lord of the Rings, which he shied away from writing because he found it a little depressing. What we do know of the story is that it was set during the reign of Aragorn's son, Eldarion. It was a time when humans are fully in charge of Middle-earth. The elves are long gone, the dwarves are all but disappeared, and people had become complacent. Children would play at being mischievous orcs, and evil begins to return in the most mundane way, in the background. It seeps in where apathy, complacency, and boredom allows it. Tolkien described the story and the reason he didn't want to complete it as being the fact that it was about humans' quick satiety with good. The fact that people become very quickly bored with peace and a lack of strife, and they take it for granted. And out of that comes the risk of evil. Those who do not learn from history are bound to repeat its mistakes. Those who don't learn from the stories of people who lived through evil times are likely to do the same.